Hey listeners, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. So let me explain. Because first, it's free, which is one of the main reasons why I chose it. Let's be real. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. And I use both ways in order to edit this podcast. And Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. So it can be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more podcast platforms. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And it's really everything that you need to make a podcast in one place. Like I'm on here doing transitions, and it's just so simple, adding background music to things. Like it is so easy. So if you're ready to start doing your podcast right now, just download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Welcome to the Feminine Waters podcast, where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine.
Welcome to the
Let's dive
Feminine
in.
Waters podcast, where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine. Let's dive in.
Where we discuss dating, relationships, celibacy, and the divine feminine. Let's dive in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Feminine Waters podcast. This is episode 2. I'm Tiffany, and I'm here with Chiquita.
Hey.
And today we're going to be talking about, we're going to get into our segment called Keeping It Chaste. So we're going to be talking about celibacy. And the main focus is talking about how celibacy and, abstinence can help bring out gifts. I guess let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So talking about celibacy is, it's interesting. I love that I think it's being brought up a lot more because there's such this, there's so many stigmas about being celibate, about being, a virgin or abstinent and all this stuff. And people think you're weird and all this. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. So personally, I'd love to know if you've discovered, anything about yourself, any new gifts about yourself while being celibate.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, I'll just give a little bit of background. I have been celibate or abstinent. I kind of use them interchangeably, but I think I'll use abstinent just in this conversation. But I've been abstaining from sex. It'll be 3 years next month on the 18th. Wow, it's crazy. But it's a journey that I kind of it happened in 2 ways. I feel like I kind of fell into it, but then I also feel as though that I made a choice to do it as well. So long story short, I had gone through a series of toxic relationships, emotional trauma, heartbreak, and things like that. And I really wanted to put myself in a position where I could kind of redefine myself and redefine my life. Like I wanted to look at dating completely differently. Like it's like I had been playing the game, if you will, a certain way for such a long time, and it wasn't working out for me. So I was like, all right, it's time to switch the play. You know what I mean? So I really that's when I started looking into the importance of dating with purpose, right? So not just like dating aimlessly, or like you think a guy's cute, so you're just trying to get with him really quick, or trying to make him like you, even though he said he doesn't want to be in a relationship, like all this type of stuff. Like I decided to just kind of pull all those things out and be really intentional about dating. And when you're being intentional about dating, you're also intentional about who you're having sex with, right? And I knew for me, when I would have sex, I would almost instantly form emotional attachments. Like I'm a Pisces. I feel everything. I'm super sensitive. Like I move from my emotions. So if I'm having sex with somebody, especially if I really like him, and he may not even really like me back, you know what I mean? But if I really like him, I'm going to form an emotional attachment. So what does that look like, forming an emotional attachment with somebody who doesn't necessarily have one with you? Can be a disaster. So in knowing that, I decided to just step back and say, you know what, since I'm changing up the game, I'm going to take sex off the table as well. And you know, I had heard God speaking to me about it for a while, like probably for like a year. I could, you know, hear him saying like, you need to be celibate, you need to be celibate. But I wasn't really paying attention to it because I didn't think I could. I sincerely did not think it's something that I could do, even though like I could take long periods of time. And for me at the time, long periods of time was like 6 to 8 months. You know, I could, you know, have those breaks without having sex. But once that 7-month mark will kind of hit, I'll be like, you know, like searching for it. Like, okay, I need to, you know what I mean? Like, I can't hold out any longer. So I was like, I don't think I'm able to do that, you know, but it came to the point where I realized like one of the last people I had sex with, I wasn't able to feel anything. Like we were in the act and I was just completely disconnected. I felt like numb, you know, it was just couldn't feel anything. And that was kind of just revelation for me in knowing that it was time to, you know, cut sex out and wait for marriage, which is my heart's true desire, is to be married. So yeah, so you know, God was nudging me. I wasn't really listening to him. Then he cut off my sexuality, wasn't able to feel anything. And then I was like, all right, God, like, I hear you now. You cut it off. So I'm going to surrender to this thing. And it's been 3 years. So within that time, to answer your question, I went on a tangent. I'm sorry about that. I'm back on it. I just thought it was important to give that background. But yes, I definitely have cultivated some very, very special spiritual gifts during my abstinence, my celibacy / abstinency. That's not a word, but you know what I mean. Journey. So the main ones I would say are faith. That's number one. And I guess before I go into that, if you don't mind, I just want to share quickly about something really special that I found in my Women's Study Bible. And it was a page that says spiritual gifts of women in the Bible. So it's a list of spiritual gifts in the Bible, and I'll just run through them really quickly. So some of them that are listed out are prophecy, so serving, so that's serving in ministry or helping others, teaching, exhortation, which means persuasion and encouragement, giving, leading, mercy, wisdom, knowledge, faith, discernment, evangelism, hospitality, and speaking. And when I saw this, I was really drawn to it. And I thought that it was something that I knew that I needed to hold on to keep on going back to. Because I know before I decided to abstain from sex, you know, I did have some of these gifts, like especially hospitality. Like that's one of the biggest ones. I'm like, I love to entertain. I love to host people. I love to connect people. I even have a Bachelor of Science degree in hotel, restaurant, institutional management. So like, that's me. And another one as well, I would say was wisdom. Now, the wisdom that I had before is very different than the wisdom I have now, I must say. I did always feel as though that I was very wise when I was young. I could see things that I feel like a lot of my peers couldn't see. A lot of the decisions that they were making, I knew that I would never make, and I couldn't understand. I would be confused by the decisions that they were making. Mm-hmm. I just always feel like, you know, there was something I knew that they didn't know, right? But now with being within my journey, I would say the ones that I've definitely picked up. So like I said, faith, that's a huge one, because for the longest time, I didn't have much faith. I only really had faith in myself. I had faith in myself and I had faith in humans. And I'm a human, so I had faith in humanity. Let me say that. I was somebody who was very open, very trusting, very, you know, to me, it's like, I believe that anything that somebody told me was the truth. I wouldn't understand why somebody would tell me something and it would be a lie. Like, I couldn't understand that, right? And so, and having gone through some of the emotional trauma, as I mentioned before, I became more guarded, and I had less faith in people because I had been hurt by them, deceived, betrayed by them. So it's like, all right, I don't have much faith in people. Not understanding at the time that I really needed to have faith in God. Like, that's who I needed to have faith in, because he is the author of faith, right? So operating in that place where I'm completely surrendering my entire self to him and having faith that his will be done in my life. Like, I don't really, it was time for me to step back and just allow for him to manifest some things in my life. So that's the main one. The others were giving and teaching, but I've been talking for a little bit, and I really want you to share before I speak any further. So let me give the floor over to you for a little bit.
Oh, I mean, honestly, this question doesn't necessarily apply to me because I'm not celibate. I'm a virgin. And so I've just kind of always been tapped into all of my gifts. And it was just kind of being okay with the gifts that I had, because I was always told that, I shouldn't do the things that I was gifted at. So, yeah, so it's a bit different because, yeah, I relate when you're talking about, just knowing things and just being confused by decisions certain people would make. Like, I never, as a child, I never understood children. I never understood children my age. I didn't really want to play. I didn't want to be outside. I didn't want to be in the snow. Like, I just wanted to sit and write poetry and music, and just like, I meditated from an early age. So yeah, I think I was just always connected, and I always you were talking about having faith in humanity, and I was totally the opposite, because I always had faith in God, and I didn't trust people at all. So I didn't even care for people. I was just like, I'm good, just me and God. This works. And then that was backwards too, because I have to love people.
Right,
I
right.
love God and not love his creation. So it's
Right.
funny how it was kind of like the reverse. But yeah, I feel like I've just always been tapped into whatever I was doing and gifted at. So.
I love that. I love that, Tiffany. And I feel like I can relate to that, because I was having a conversation with my friend the other day, and I was talking about how, I've been finding myself in the past few years in these like cycles of understanding who I am and being confident and like moving in flow. And then all of a sudden, like, it's like, okay, now I don't know who I am. I'm losing direction. I'm depressed. Like, I don't know what's next. You know what I mean? And having this, these waves or these cycles of like different emotions, or not have, having self-worth, sometimes not having it, and things like that. And I remember telling her that the last time when I fully felt like myself and felt confident and felt just like untouchable, unstoppable, was when I was 15 years old. And that's the last time I actually said 10th grade, but 10th grade was like when I was 15, 16 years old. And, and I lost my virginity when I was 16. And I thought that was very, very, like, when I put two and two together, I was like, I wonder if that had, the fact that I was no longer pure, if you will, is what, took away from me. And maybe that's what I've been battling for all these years. You know what I mean? And so it was just kind of further confirmation that I knew that I made the right choice to abstain from sex, because people don't understand how powerful sex is. Like, the media culture tries to make it seem like it's that's just this fun thing that you do,
right,
to like, yeah, it's like recreational and, all this stuff, but it really is a spiritual experience. It's something that God made for a man and wife to enjoy, to worship God in their union. You know what I mean? And people don't realize that when they're having sex with multiple partners, they're giving parts of themselves away, which probably was my issue, giving parts of myself away, right? And then you're also allowing other people to pour their energy into you when you're having sex. Mm-hmm. So I know that after the last guy I dated, we talked about this on the first episode, we broke up, it was going to be 5 years ago. I never had problems with like my confidence. I never had problems with like feeling insecure. I never even really had long seasons of depression, right? But this guy, unbeknownst to me at the time, because he's presenting his, he's presenting his mask to me, right? So I'm receiving him in the way that he's presenting himself, but not knowing that within him, there's a lot of deep set insecurities. There's depression, there's anxiety, all these things. And I was having sex with this guy, and all of a sudden, like I started to take these things on. Like, why do I feel this way? And it wasn't until later on in the relationship when I started to see, like, okay, it's because he is this person. The confident person that he presented himself to be in the beginning was actually a fraud. This is who he really is. And I was able to take on that energy, and it's not where it's at.
Yeah. He was giving you the representative. Yeah.
For sure.
I had kind of that same experience with the last boyfriend. Yeah. Same.
Okay.
He presented himself as this whole like confident, like kind of like holistic person. And he was so not that. And I was like, you're counterfeit.
So, yeah, totally. Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought that up. I'll talk more about counterfeit going on, but go ahead. I want you to have the floor.
I remember talking like about this subject with an old coworker, probably 7 years ago or something. And he had been, he's married, divorced, and he had 2 kids, but he had been celibate for several years. And we would always have these conversations because he would call them, soul ties. I don't remember where he got that from, but he's like, yeah, you're creating soul ties with people. Like you're like permanently connected to these people. Like how many soul ties do you have out there? Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's so, that kind of just like reaffirmed, yeah, I really don't want to be doing this.
Yes.
Yeah. I made that decision super early. When I was 8, after, it was something in church, and I was like, oh, waiting till marriage, that sounds like a plan. And then I have a True Love Waits Bible that I got when I was 18. I bought for myself when I was in college, and it had like a card that you fill out saying that like it's a vow that you're making to yourself and to God that you're gonna wait for your future spouse, and then you mail the vow to whoever authored that specific Bible, I guess, and then you keep the second one for yourself. And so I had that for a long time. It's been interesting, dating when you're a virgin and having these conversations with people. And they're like, you're really going to keep a vow you made when you were 8? And I'm like, yeah, because it still stands. Like, I don't regret anything.
Right.
And I love that in that specific Bible, it was talking about, it just made so much sense because it's like, sex is the ultimate form of intimacy. And so why would you not keep that for the ultimate form of commitment?
Right.
And so I've just been holding out, and it's fine. So.
Yeah, amen. I love it. I mean, I love when I meet adult, and when I say adult, I'm saying like, okay, let's say maybe over the age of like 25, 20, I'll say 20. I love meeting adult virgins. I love it. I mean, yeah. It's just, you have this power of this power of self-control that many of us never had, you know what I mean? And it, to me, especially in a guy, like self-control is like the most attractive thing in the world to me. Like when I meet a guy and he tells me that, well, have I met a guy? No. When I see guys on social media who tell me that they're celibate or still or abstaining from sex, like automatically, like I'm instantly like, oh my gosh, like you're it. Like, oh my goodness, like you are where it's at. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good segue for something that I just learned about last night, because I was on I was in a Clubhouse meeting with a college associate. You know, we knew each other in college, and she's been celibate for 7 years. And so her ministry, a part of her ministry, is speaking about celibacy and like its benefits and things like that. And she had a clubhouse last night called Celibate Men Do Exist, right?
Mm.
And she had these 3 very attractive men as moderators with her on that platform. And one of them was a virgin. I think he's about 30. The rest have been celibate for like a few years or like are waiting until marriage. And in that talk, they talked about semen retention. Have you heard about that before?
No.
Okay. All right, cool. So it was my first time hearing about it. And so, of course, as soon as it was over, I went and I started like YouTubing, because I YouTube, I don't Google. I prefer watching videos. Started YouTubing on it, and I learned a lot. And basically what it is the absence of ejaculation, right? And when you're celibate, you know, you're not having sex, so you're not ejaculating. Now, you could also not be having sex. You could be masturbating and ejaculating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's the absence of ejaculating, like no masturbation, no sex, no nothing, right? And basically what it is that semen for men is their life force energy, right? Which is how they are able to create life in a woman, right? Through that. So it's said that basically when you hold your semen in, it allows you to really tap into your divine masculine energy. We talk about divine feminine energy on this platform, but I think it's important to also talk about divine masculine energy, because it's not talked about as much.
Yeah.
So you're able to hold on to that energy. So like when you're holding on to that energy, you're able to manifest like on 1,000, because it's creative life force energy. Just like how you're able to create a child, you can create your spiritual gifts. You can create the life you've always wanted. You can create more money. You can create a better appearance. I was watching YouTube videos last night about men who are practicing semen retention, their before and after pictures, like when I was having sex, what I looked like, and what I look like now that I've been retaining my semen. And like literally you can see like the glow from within them. They have
fascinating. Wow.
Yes. Their beards are healthier. Like their beards are like thicker, more moisturized. Like their bodies are like, whew. Yo, it was fascinating, and I loved it. You know, they talked about how they have more clarity, they have more focus, they have more willpower, you know, and they love it. You know, they're like, this is what I'm holding on to, because, and they said that the most important thing was that women are more attracted to them, and not in like a way where it's perverted, in a way where women literally just want to walk up to them and have conversation. You know, and men too. They said other men too. They're like, you know, I'll be in the grocery store and like 5 different people will come up to me, male and female, just start talking to me. You know what I mean? So I think that was a nugget that I really loved. So it's not just always about, you know, women, because we're always having the conversation about women waiting, but men are out here waiting too, and they are benefiting.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've definitely met quite a few celibate guys in my time. So it's always beautiful to see.
Yeah, for sure.
I always get excited.
For sure. Yep. And you know, and it's easier, like we were talking about counterfeits earlier. So I know for me in my journey, that's been something that I've been able to I've been able to cultivate. I can't talk, my bad. More, it's like, I can see a counterfeit quick now. Whereas before, you know, I'm just so caught up in like, oh my gosh, he looks so good. You know what I mean? I hope he likes me too. I hope he tries to get my number, blah, blah, blah. Like that's all you're thinking about. But now, you know, after abstaining for 3 years, like if a guy is telling me some BS, I can catch it way more quickly than I ever could before, way quickly, you know? So that's been a huge blessing as well, where it's like, now I know, you know, I there's not even an opportunity for guys to come into my life and waste my time, because I can just see it on them. I can smell it on them even. So yeah, that's been pretty dope.
And have you felt more focused since becoming celibate?
Definitely more focused, and more focused on myself. Whereas before, because I know my main problem was that I was idolizing relationships. That's why my romantic life was in shambles, was because the most important thing to me on the planet was getting with a guy, getting engaged, and getting married. That's all I cared about, you know? And because I'm out here thinking, I'm like, I'm great. Any guy would be lucky to be with me. You know what I mean? I'm bomb, blah, 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 you know? I have all these great accomplishments, and I'm beautiful, and I'm fun, and I'm smart, and I'm layered, and, you know, I have all the, you know, so like, of course, like any guy's gonna want to be with me. But I realized that I had so much more in this time of being abstinent. I realized that I really did still have like emotional trauma from like my childhood, and even emotional trauma from like friends from when I was young, being deceived and betrayed by friends when I was young, and even being betrayed and deceived in my adult years, you know. So looking at those emotional triggers and saying like, Chiquita, you still have a lot of healing that you need to do within yourself before a man, a true man, a divine masculine, because that's who I'm calling for. I'm not just calling for a man. I'm calling for a divine masculine. That's the only way a divine masculine can be attracted to you, is if you are healed and exuding that divine feminine energy. So yeah, focusing on myself and building myself up and loving myself, you know, pouring into myself, strengthening my faith, strengthening my relationship with God. That's really the only relationship I'm focused on right now, is my relationship with me and my creator. Because, you know, he's the most important one right now. Yeah. Oh, well, he's the most important one always.
Always.
Yeah.
I'm sure, you know, pre-celibacy, you were still accomplishing things and getting things done. Do you see like an increase in I guess, I don't know, accomplishing goals and
yeah, I see an increase. Let me tell you, I see an increase in my feminine energy. Whereas before, I was definitely operating in the masculine, like the doing energy, the figuring out energy, the trying to build energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now that I'm in this journey and really focusing on the feminine, like I'm more relaxed now, and I'm more in flow, and I'm more receiving, you know, things, instead of going out and trying to get it, that hustle mentality, that get it out the mud mentality, that chase the bag mentality. That's masculine, you know. So for me, it's like I'm just kind of sitting back, and I'll be honest, I have to force myself sometimes to just sit back and chill, be still, and let God, you know, because I feel like I've planted so many seeds. And if I'm just able to wait on the Lord and allow him to bring in the harvest, like I'll be good. So yeah, that's how it's been for me.
Nice. So I don't have the experience of sex, but in terms of just like being intimate with someone and kissing or whatever, dating, yeah, when I'm not doing that, it's like I'm able to just take better care of myself, just to get more of my goals accomplished, and just even in terms of like dating someone without having, I guess, intimacy for a while, because like the last person I dated, I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna be kissing you. Let's get to know each other. Like, I don't want to kiss anyone who's not my boyfriend. It's like, because I'm so like, I love kissing, so when I start kissing somebody, I don't want to talk anymore. Like I just don't at all.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Dive into that. I want to hear about that.
So it's just like this distraction because it's great, but yeah, like if you haven't built that emotional intimacy first, um, yeah, I kind of just don't have any business doing the physical. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. And we have to realize that a lot of times media is lying to us. Culture is lying to us. You know what I mean? And, people don't realize that when you abstain, you're able to receive the fullness of the spirit because, when you're having sex, you're feeding your flesh. You're not feeding your spirit. You know what I mean? Or even, when we're doing anything, when we're overeating, you're feeding the sex. I'm sorry, you're feeding the flesh. You're not feeding. There's so many aspects besides just sex where you're giving into the flesh and your spirit is just dormant. And without the spirit, there's no way for you to really walk into your purpose and manifest and do the things that God put you on this planet to do. Because if you just think that you were just born to just be here and just do whatever, you're sadly mistaken. Like, you have a purpose on this planet, and the only way to be able to see that purpose fulfilled is to be able to cultivate the spirit, to strengthen the spirit.
Yeah.
And when you are able to do that, when you abstain, you're able to receive the fullness of God's power. You're able to hear from him, and you're able to like manifest what it is that he has set out for your life. So I think that that's important to mention as well.
Also because like I said, I'm able to take care of myself better because I am a Cancer, and we've talking a little about our signs today, but because I am a Cancer, like we are the mother of all of the zodiac. Like, I'm very nurturing. I pour into people a lot. And so it can be draining. And I think because I am a healer, we tend to attract people who are not
Wounded.
not healed. Yeah.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so
100%.
being like, even like, abstaining from relationships and not putting myself in that space has been great because I would always just find myself really giving a lot to the person and not getting that reciprocated.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've always had like I guess a large amount not a large amount a large amount of guys say that, oh, you're this, you're so perfect, you're like, I think you might be the one, or we should get married. And I'm thinking, you don't know me that well. So you're reacting to like what I give you, but you're not pouring into me. Like, you're not asking me about myself. And so so not having to give that energy away is great. Also, I find I guess my test for myself now is like, if I am getting so distracted where I'm not doing the things I normally would do. I remember just like being in college and like my first love, I would just be, hugged up with him, and then I would just miss church because he didn't go to church and like that kind of stuff. So that's not giving so much of myself away to people, and especially because I do that for work. I don't need to do it in relationships too.
Understandable.
So abstaining from that whole thing has been great, but also now meeting somebody who's like in the same space as I am, and mentally and emotionally, we're not in the same space at all, which is also a good thing because we're not able to have anything happen right now. But like, he actually encourages me. I actually have stuff reciprocated, which is like new. So I guess, like, what am I saying? I don't know. Abstaining from like dating and relationships has allowed me to just have something really kind of perfect just fall into my lap right now with who I'm talking to right now. So
love it. I love it. I love it. And I have the same exact story. You know, every single last one of my boyfriends told me that they would marry me. All of them. All of them told me that. And I believed them. And that's why I stayed with them for as long as I did. You know what I mean? But, and it was the same thing, you know, you're perfect, you know, you just, you know, I've never felt so comfortable around you. I've never felt so comfortable around any woman. Like, I just feel like I can be my full self with you. You know, you're so amazing. You're a queen. You're this, you're that. And you're hearing all of that. And that was one of my things from the past too, where once again, like trusting people, like I would hear that and I would believe it just because they said it. Just because they said it, I would believe it. But the action was never really there behind it. And so that is something that I've discovered about myself now in my journey, is that if a dude is talking, that's great. But if I don't see any action behind those words, I gotta go. I gotta go. You know, I would never stay in another 2, 3, 4 year relationship the way I did before, just off of words, you know? And just like, you know, I agree completely with what you said. You know, as a healer, you know, people who are wounded they will attach to you because they're literally trying to get what you have. They need what you have. You know what I mean? But the fact that they're pulling from you. They're pulling from you. And a lot of time in my relationships, I would feel drained, super drained, you know? And so that's why now I'm intentional about finding this, or being found by this divine masculine who's going to pour into me, and I'm going to pour into him. We're equally yoked, you know, the yin, think about the yin and the yang, think about the infinity sign, constantly pouring into each other, you know, and that spirit has to be built. And I just want to take a little excerpt out of this book that I've been reading. Well, actually, I just finished it. It's called Understanding the Purpose and Power of Prayer by Dr. Miles Monroe. And he speaks about Jesus and the spirit. And I think this is important because, you know, when we're talking about divine masculine, when we're talking about divine feminine, that's all spirit, you know. Just like how I talked about earlier with the semen retention, the reason why these men are glowing up, the reason why I feel I've grown up, the reason why I feel like you glow is because we are, you know, we are cultivating the spirit. In Luke 3:21-22, we read that after Jesus fasted, he returned in the power of the Spirit, whom he had already received before the fast. But Dr. Miles Monroe is saying here that Jesus didn't receive the Holy Spirit after he fasted. So fasting also meaning abstaining, right? Because a fast can be it doesn't just have to be food. It can be sex. It can be social media. It can be anything. You know what I mean? After he fasted, but the spirit within him was manifested with new power after he fasted. So I just wanted to mention that in saying that we're all born with this spirit. We're all born with this energy. God has equipped us when we're placed on the planet to do what it is, to do things according to his will. But when we fast, when we abstain, it just magnifies the power. It makes it grow even larger. And when it's growing even larger, then you're able to really to live the true life that you're supposed to be living. And I think that was important to just state here.
Yeah. I can equivalent that, I think, to when someone's blind, you know, their hearing is magnified.
Yes.
Their other senses are heightened, you know?
Yes.
Yeah. I honestly have just been sitting here trying to think of what would be the female equivalent of a sperm retention, but I'm like, we don't retain eggs because we lose them every month. So
it's the energy, right? Because even when women climax during sex or climax in general, you're still exhausting energy. Like energy is coming out. You know, there are women that ejaculate. I have never had that experience, but regardless, once you are released, you're still releasing that life force energy out of you.
True.
And, you know, when you're having that experience, that's why people who have had sex, you know, that afterwards you're so tired, like you're like, ugh, you know, like you can't move, and it's because that life force energy has just been, you've released it out into the universe, you know what I mean? And just out and in almost a foolish way, you know what I mean? I mean, I'm going to say this in outside outside of sex, because like I said before, I believe that sex within marriage is worship, and, you know, God creates a completely different sexual experience for a man and wife than he does with people who aren't married. That's just something I believe. I feel like when I have sex when I'm married, it's going to be completely different from when I was having sex outside of marriage. I just believe that. So believe it or not, your life force energy, Tiffany, it's there, it's in you, because, you know, you're not releasing it. So you already got it. And women who are practicing abstinence already have it too. You know, so many people have told me, you know, how much like I glow. They're like, you're glowing. And I'm like, am I? Like, I know my skin has gotten better. My weight, that's a big one. Like, I've been able to maintain my weight, and my metabolism has sped up so much since I've been on this journey. My hair has grown so long. My hair and my nails grow better. You know, so I think once a woman is operating in that, it's just, we kind of just already got it.
Okay. I'm like, why my nails grow so fast?
See, well, we got to look into that though. We got to look into that, but
right.
But yeah, it's a real life thing, you know. It's a real life thing. You can manifest the way you want to look. You can manifest the way you want to be. You know, God is the creator. God is the spirit. You know, you can only manifest through the spirit which God gives you, and that's the life force energy that you have within yourself. So, yeah, Google that, guys, or YouTube it, like I like to do. Google and YouTube it.
Yeah, I certainly will be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I just want to talk more about wisdom a little bit, because that's one of the spiritual gifts that I got, and or got strengthened, I would say, in a way where, okay, so I read this in the Bible, and I think it's important to note as well. I just read this a few nights ago. This was Proverbs 8:18 through 21. And basically it's saying that wisdom is the provider of fortune and wealth. So it's a beautiful scripture. So I'm just going to repeat it for anybody who didn't hear it the first time. Proverbs 8, read the whole Proverbs 8 for real, because it's actually wisdom speaking to humans instead of God speaking to humans, like how we usually see in the Bible. So it's basically talking about how wisdom was here. Like, wisdom basically helped, if you will, quote unquote, God create the earth. Like, I existed before there was the earth. I existed before there were humans, animals, anything. Like, I was here. You know, that this wisdom energy was here. And you know, where a lot of times we think within ourselves, like we as humans, that, like I was saying earlier, that hustle mentality, we feel as though that we're the ones that need to do the work to actually acquire wealth or acquire fortune. But it's actually the spirit of wisdom. When you're tapping into wisdom, when you're listening, you know, when you're learning from your mistakes, when you're applying certain things, then wealth and fortune will actually start to attract towards you. You don't have to go out and get it. It will just come to you. So after learning that, I've really been putting that into practice a lot. So that's one of the spiritual gifts. I talked about faith, giving. This is a huge one. I was never really a giver before I started this journey. I always wanted to receive, that's for sure. I always wanted to get, and like, you know, women were receivers, but even still, I feel like, but that can be toxic. That can be toxic when you're always just wanting to receive, right? Like, when you know, that then we're looking at like that gold digger mentality, that, you know, sugar baby mentality, you know, that's toxic, or on a lower vibration, I would say. But I have been a lot more giving, you know, even when I don't have it, you know, I will give. I'm even in a season right now where I'm trying to figure out some gifts that I might want to give out for Valentine's Day, like just to give to like people, you know, just anyone, you know, not just people I even necessarily know or have formed a relationship with, but people who I know maybe don't have a partner right now and they're not getting Valentine's Day gifts, you know, giving them a gift from me, and, you know, things like that. I started tithing. That's for sure. I never used to tithe at all. I didn't really even understand tithing. Like, why do I need to give my money back to the church if they already have all this money? But, you know, I started tithing. And last but not least, teaching. this is something that I definitely discovered about myself in this journey. And I come from a line of teachers. My grandmother, my grandfather, my mother, teachers, my other grandfather was a teacher as well, but it wasn't until I started on this journey, and like I said earlier, was really able to sit with myself, know myself, understand myself, and hear from God for him to tell me like the reason why I allowed you to go through all of this pain and depression and heartache that you went through is because I want you to use your experiences to teach other women to help prevent them from making the same mistakes that you've made. Mm-hmm. And since then, that's when I started teaching on celibacy, how to heal from heartbreak. That's when I started writing my book. That's when I really started really doing like healing sessions. I created a course. I wrote a How to Heal from Heartbreak workbook, so teaching women, basically don't make the same mistakes I did, learn from my mistakes and see how God can really position you in the place that you need to be. Take that focus off of everything else and focus on God's will and purpose in your life.
All of that from celibacy.
All of that from celibacy,
Perfect. And I appreciate the scripture because I have to sit with that for a while because like that was something I needed to hear because I do feel like I have the wisdom, but I also am always battling the whole like hustle mentality and always like I have to be productive. And I am always having to check myself because I'm like, I'm being too masculine right now. I'm being too masculine.
Mm-hmm. Same here, girl.
Yeah.
It's a journey. It's not something that's just going to automatically happen.
Right. Because especially if you're like, well, I do have to take care of myself. Like,
yes, exactly.
I am the only one taking care of myself. So yeah. But yeah, I will definitely be leaning into that more. I hope everyone enjoyed listening and learning and if you have considered celibacy, like stop considering it and just do.
Yes, just do it. Trust me. And I want to put this out there too. If there's anybody that, is kind of battling, not sure if they want to start the journey. I was in the exact same position. Please feel free to reach out to me. Okay. So my name's Chiquita, as I said before. So feel free to reach out to me. I love helping women and men too navigate through that, through the abstinence celibacy journey. So please reach out to me if there's a need.
Awesome. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next episode.